Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, due to space constraint, when we ask for pay respect shortly, just be seated and pay respect and just walk 3 times from your seat because we don't have space for you to kneel down and pay proper respect. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, you may be seated. And first of all, we would like to invite Brother Richard to lead us in chanting the triple gem. Please recite after Brother Richard.
Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantan Abhivade Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Brother Richard. And now let us give respect to Luangpor and the Ajahn. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, it gives us great honor to welcome Luangpor Kalyano to Penang and Ajahn Kema and Ajahn Kamarangsi to Penang. We are delighted that such face-to-face Dhamma talk and Dhamma interaction finally came live instead of online. Those of you who have friends and relatives who can't be here with us in present tonight, and the session will be live streamed. Please invite your friends and your relatives to join the session live stream. Just allow me to give a very brief introduction of Luangpor Kalyano. Luangpor Kalyano was born in London in 1962. His interest in Buddhism awakened while still a student. After completing his university degree at Bristol University, he traveled to Thailand. In 1985, Luangpor received ordination in the forest tradition of Ajahn Chah. Luangpor has trained for many years with Venerable Ajahn Anand, one of the several disciples of Venerable Luangpor Chan, who have become highly regarded as meditation masters in their own right. In year 2000, Venerable Luangpor Kalyano was invited to establish the forest tradition in Australia. Luangpor is now the abbot of Buddha Bodhivana Monastery in West Warburton, Melbourne, Australia. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, as we know, the global COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 had changed our lifestyle and our way of life completely. And because of the lockdowns, traveling was restricted. We experienced lockdown. Social interaction almost became a halt. Most people became homebound, and we were forced into the accelerated digital transformation. And some, especially the children and the teenagers, had become addicted to the gadgets and the devices, and that became a big worry to parents. Tonight's topic is specially crafted to all of us here tonight. The topic for tonight is unlocking the secrets to fulfilling lifestyle in this digital age. Please fold our palms together to invite Luangpor to teach us the Dhamma talk tonight and recite. I will just recite. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. The Brahma Sahampati, Lord of the world, with hands palm to palm before his heart, requested a blessing. There are beings here with only a very little dust in their eyes. Please teach the Dhamma out of compassion for them.
Blessings. Good evening to you all. I thought we could just begin with. Can't hear. Oh. Okay.
Testing.
Up to you.
Too small. Sorry.
So I thought we'd begin with a short, brief meditation. Maybe it was that was the one giving me the volume. Can you hear me in this mic? Nobody can hear me.
It's not switch on yet. It's not on yet. Then this on already. Try now.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. So obviously a few obstacles tonight. That's life, isn't it? Life is full of obstacles. So that just proves the point. But the Buddha said we should face our obstacles with patience and dignity and mindfulness and a good attitude. So that's what we'll do first. I thought we could just meditate for a few minutes, and I can give you some instructions as we do it. So just sit comfortably. You can sit exactly where you are in your chair, but perhaps try closing your eyes first. Sit up straight and then close your eyes. As you're sitting here, bring your attention inwards to your own body. Normally our attention is going outwards, either with thinking or looking or hearing, tasting. What we want you to do now is just bring your attention inwards and begin by placing your awareness, this quality of knowing, at the top of your head. So keep your eyes closed and just ask yourself how your head feels right now. It may feel cool because of the cool air surrounding, or you may have a headache, or you may just feel very neutral, even numb, because much of our body doesn't give out much sensation at all. There's no one right answer here. You're just bringing attention to your own head at this time, noticing how it feels. And then slowly passing your attention downwards. So noticing your face, your neck. Many people, they have some tension in their neck. So notice that. Then your shoulders, they often become caught into different positions because repetitively we're sitting, over a computer, or driving in certain positions so much that our shoulders display some tension or even pain. Just try to consciously relax your muscles from your face to your neck to your shoulders. And send your attention down your arms to your hands. So wherever your hands are, whether they're on your legs or in your lap, just relax your fingers. Notice how your fingers are feeling. Are they tense? Some people might be sitting in there without realizing they've clenched their fist. And just slowly unclench your fist if that's what you find. Now bring your attention to your chest. Notice your breathing. As you're breathing in and out, your chest is moving up and down. You're not judging this, just allowing your breath, the rhythm of your breathing to continue at its own pace, but you're just noticing. The breath is going in and out all the time. Come down to your waist, your stomach, your waist. Maybe it feels hot, feels cold. Maybe your clothes, they feel tight or loose. Notice the feeling of your legs. If you're sitting like me, you feel the full pressure of your legs on the ground. If you're sitting on a chair, maybe you just notice your hips, your thighs, and then you'll notice your feet touching the ground. So you may notice many things: pleasure, pain, neutral feelings, sensations. At the moment, you're just training in directing your awareness, your mindfulness to your own body in this present moment. And maybe my voice is helping you to keep coming back to noticing these different sensations. And if I was to stop speaking, you'd probably find very quickly the thoughts would take over and you would start, we say, proliferating about what you're going to do later, what happened yesterday, and so on. The last part of this meditation will just get you to now bring your attention up to the tip of your nostrils and take a few deep breaths. Breathe in, breathe out. Just establish awareness of the air coming in at the tip of your nostrils. Maybe it's cool air. And see if you can follow the feeling or the sensation, the movement of the air going in all the way. Notice your chest rising up, expanding. Then there's a pause, and then you breathe out. As you breathe out, the air rushes out at your nostrils, a bit warmer from your body heat. But just relax now. Don't try to control the breathing or make it any particular way. Just notice whether you're breathing in, whether you're breathing out. Just carry on doing that for a few moments until I let you know it's the end of this meditation. Just try to keep observing, watching the in-breath, the out-breath. Notice how easily your mind gets distracted. Maybe you're already thinking about the latest message that came to your phone. Maybe you're distracted by sounds from other people. Maybe you're thinking about something going on in your life that's popped into your mind. But at this time, all you have to do is let these thoughts go and come back to the feeling, the sensation of the in-breath and the out-breath. So this is your experience of letting go. In Mandarin we say "fangxia." Letting go of all the thoughts, all the business of your mind, coming back to the present moment, the in-breath, the out-breath. Very restful, peaceful, non-digital. So that was just a small taste of the practice of mindfulness of breathing, meditation. If you ever want to know what the Buddha practiced, what made the Buddha, then this practice of watching your breath is exactly what the Buddha was doing on the night of his enlightenment. And it's considered to be the crown of all meditation techniques. It's not the only meditation technique that the Buddha taught or that other teachers practice and teach, but it's considered to be perhaps the most complete form of meditation, because it can, as if, transport you all the way from your normal state of mind to nibbana, to enlightenment. Of course, it will take some practice, training, effort, time to do that, but it's a way of practice that if you invest time in daily, weekly, monthly, it will bring you endless good benefits, good things. So today's talk is entitled How to Have a Fulfilling Life in the Digital Age, something like that. And I wanted you to just try a bit of breath meditation first, just so you can know your own mind and see some of the obstacles to having a fulfilling life. Because if we do feel stressed or unfulfilled or unhappy in any way, where does that come from? Well, the Buddha pointed out it comes from our own mind. It's the starting point. And so the more we get to know our own mind, develop it, improve it, train it, the more opportunity we have to experience fulfillment and happiness. Here we're talking about internal happiness, you might say. And that doesn't mean to say the teachings of the Buddha won't also support happiness, happy interaction with the world around us, with other people and the environment. Of course, all the teachings of the Buddha will support and help with that as well. But the fact that when we meditate, we get to know our own mind better, it's just pointing out the importance of our mind in anything we do. Our state of mind, our attitude, our views, our thoughts, how we feel, this is all so important. And we miss it. A lot of the time we're just missing our own mind, what's going on. We're not very aware of ourselves, let alone other people. We don't know what other people are thinking, feeling either. But we often don't even know ourselves. And you might notice in the course of your day how often you jump to judge other people in different ways. Like, this person is really good or bad, a friend, a foe. This person is really cool, this person is really stupid, annoying. We make all these judgments about other people all the time, people we often haven't even met or know. But at the same time, maybe we're missing our own mind. So when we talk about the world, the digital world, perhaps that the development and the rapid development in this day and age of digital technology is just enhancing that problem, in that we are spending so much time getting to know the world outside of ourselves, and technology can help us with that, that even more than ever we're missing the inner world of our own mind, our own body, our own mind. And you might say the root cause of our happiness and suffering, we're missing it, we're not understanding what's going on. The Buddha obviously didn't live in this day and age, he lived 2,500 years ago. So it's very common that people think, what can the Buddha do or teach us about living in this modern world with all the technology and the problems of the modern world? How relevant are the Buddhist teachings to that? And that's a fair question, but again, people often jump to conclusions and say, well, the Buddha didn't teach anything about digital technology because it didn't exist. And in one sense, yeah, that's true, but the Buddha did teach about the material world and giving us tools and wisdom to interact with the material world skillfully and for our benefit and the benefit of others. And what is digital technology? Well, it's just human beings manipulating and developing the material world for our use. And it's not that in the time of the Buddha there was no technology at all. There may not have been digital technology, but there's a famous teaching the Buddha gave about chariots. They didn't have cars, and they didn't have to argue about should we buy an electric car or a petrol-driven car in those days, because they didn't have them, but they had chariots. Perhaps they argued about, I'm going to have a horse-drawn chariot or an ox-drawn chariot, I don't know. They had chariots, and the Buddha pointed out that even a chariot can be deluding to us. That's technology, isn't it? Technology in an early form, chariot, a vehicle with wheels pulled by an animal to get us from A to B. And the Buddha said, the world is like a chariot, the king's chariot. In those days, the top guys, the richest people were the kings, the leaders. They had the wealth, the power, the armies, everything. So they had the best chariots. And the Buddha warned people, said, when you look at a chariot, the king's chariot is beautiful, ornate. They don't have decorations because it's a king's chariot, just like we might decorate our super yacht today if we're a billionaire, or our car, or our home, or whatever, or even a phone. People sometimes like to decorate their phone, don't they? They get a gold-tipped phone. Well, in those days they had gold-tipped chariots. And the Buddha said, be careful, this is deluding. And we're all probably guilty of it, aren't we? We see something that catches our eye, a new design, a bigger, better design, more complex design, and that can apply to digital technology as much to any other technology. In those days it was chariots. And he said, beware of the deluding nature of a chariot, because in the end a chariot also wears out, gets old, falls apart, breaks down, needs repair, needs maintenance, needs a new paint job. To be honest, if you've ever seen chariots drawn by a horse, maybe a very beautiful horse, but horses still go to the toilet. Where do they go to the toilet? All over the chariot that they're pulling. So probably even the kings in the time of the Buddha had to deal with horse poo and horse urine. But still, people get deluded by chariots. They actually, once they did, or probably quite often, they're doing research into mobile phones, the sort of heart of modern digital technology, and they said there's almost no mobile phones in the world that you can't find human excrement on. Perhaps that's because human beings like to take their phone into the toilet and use it there. They're so addicted. I don't know. Or maybe they don't wash their hands properly. But if you grab anyone's human phone, however beautiful, good looking it is, however advanced the technology, if you scan it, as a forensic scientist or something, you'll still find some human excrement there, at least a little bit. That's just like the Buddha teaching us, isn't it? He's saying, look, however great this world looks, however alluring, beautiful, fascinating it is, whether it's digital technology or any other kind of technology, it's imperfect. Doesn't last. We all know that. Phones break, they wear out. It's imperfect. Because it doesn't last, you're constantly having to maintain it, clean it, adapt it, sort it out when it gets clogged up. Not necessarily with physical dirt, but with all the data that you store on it. It gets to the point where it may not work properly anymore, or it freezes up, whatever. You constantly have to keep minding that digital technology. So it's imperfect. The Buddha's word is dukkha. It's imperfect. It's impermanent, imperfect, and it's not self. You may say this phone or this computer or this car or even this chariot is mine. I own it. Especially if you're a king, you say, oh, I own this, I own everything. Nowadays, we're all kings and queens, aren't we? We buy our phone, we earn our money, buy our really good quality new phone or new tablet, new computer. We said, this is mine. And we protect it, look after it. Anyone says, can I use that? Hey, imagine if you're using your phone and a stranger comes along and says, can I use that? You're going to think twice, aren't you? They're going to steal it, they're going to break it. It's annoying, I'm using it, why can they use it? You have a sense of self, a sense of ownership. Just as the kings in the time of the Buddha owned their chariot, and that was their chariot, you have your phone and you own your phone. and you suffer for it because a phone is not self. Anything you say I own, you're wrong. That's basically the Buddha's answer. That's the Buddha's wisdom. Nominally, it's yours. Of course, you sign a contract, you buy the phone, pay the money, you say it's yours. But it's not, because it doesn't do exactly what you want, does it? It will get lost. It will break. It will get stolen. It will fall down the side of the seat on the aeroplane. It will fall out of your car window, whatever. Or maybe if you're in the botanical gardens, maybe the monkey will steal it out of your hand. So when that happens, just say, aha, this is the Buddha teaching me. Phones are not self. This is the message of the Buddha since that day, 2,500 years ago, when he said, beware of getting lost and deluded by the royal chariot, its beauty, the sense of ownership. Beware, because ultimately it's not yours. It's not, you don't own it. It's a collection of physical elements, earth, air, fire, and water. Whether you put those elements together very well and make a chariot, or you put them together very well and make an iPhone or a Samsung or any other brand, same thing. It's just a collection of physical elements that are still subject to impermanence, suffering, not self. These are what we call the three universal characteristics that the Buddha encouraged us to learn about, find out about, observe in daily life. Why? To help free us from our delusions. Because when you see things that are impermanent as permanent, through delusion, through a mistaken understanding of truth, you could say, you can suffer, can't you? Because if you're seeing something that's inherently impermanent, changeable, subject to change, if you're taking that as permanent, when the change comes in one way or another, you won't be happy with it. Especially a phone, the phone breaks, you're not happy. The phone wears out, the phone somehow or other changes, you're not going to be happy. Generally, the more it costs, the more unhappy you are with that change. Especially if someone borrows it or pinches it, or it just runs out of charge, it runs out of power, you're not going to be happy. And the same with the imperfections of a phone. Phones go wrong, phones don't always operate as you would like them. If you're not seeing that, you suffer. Oh, why is my phone not working? You suffer, don't you? If only in a little way, sometimes in a bigger way. Maybe the information that the phone conveys to you, that message from someone who's been very rude and insulting to you, suffering. And then if you take that phone as self, my phone, when it doesn't do what you want, it's no longer under your control, you suffer. So seeing impermanence, imperfection, not self, is a way to free our mind from suffering. I'm just summarizing here, but you could say this is the essence, the heart of the Buddha's teachings, and the wisdom that the Buddha was giving us and encouraging us to develop. And it applies to the digital world, digital technology, whatever technology you can think of or know about in this day and age. Here we're at the Science University, you're studying all kinds of technology in one way or another, either using the technology to study or actually studying technology itself. Whatever it is, it's still subject to impermanence, imperfection, and not self. First, you can only take my word for it, or take the Buddha's word for it. But the Buddha's challenge was, well, go away and really look at it closely. Ask these questions, observe the truth, and you'll find out what I'm saying is true. He was fully confident in what he was saying, because the Buddha did really contemplate and reflect on this in a very deep, profound way for a long time until he was absolutely sure this is the nature of the world, the universe we live in. It's impermanent, unsatisfactory, not self. That doesn't mean to say digital technology or any other technology is all wrong or bad. Not at all. It can be very useful. You could even say we're all here tonight because of digital technology. You probably all read a notice on your phone or your computer. People rang you up, people sent you emails, and people contacted you through technology to get you here. Why am I a monk, Buddhist monk? Why is this Buddhist monk, penniless, poor Buddhist monk, teaching you about technology tonight in a university, pretending to be the professor tonight in an auditorium where usually the lecturer will be standing teaching students? Why? Because when I was 16, okay, in those days, TVs weren't digital, they were analog, a different system, but it's still technology, isn't it? When I was 16, I saw a TV program made by the BBC in the UK, I'm from the UK, about my teacher, Ajahn Chah. And you can still see it today through the wonders of digital technology on YouTube. It's called The Mindful Way. And there's another one called The Buddha Comes to Sussex. 2 documentaries made about Luangpor Cha, my teacher, his teachings, his lifestyle. And for me, that was very helpful because at 16, I was reading books about Buddhism, but my first thought was, I'm too late. I'm born in the wrong era. I had this thought, these teachings of the Buddha are really good, but they're kind of no longer applicable to modern society. They don't work anymore. Nobody practices them. Out of date. I should have been born 2,500 years ago. That was my first thought, reading Buddhist texts. But then I saw Ajahn Chah and his monks on the TV, and I'd been thinking, can you practice what the Buddha taught? And then there's Ajahn Chah, who we believe to be an enlightened monk, so someone who has practiced with what the Buddha taught, experienced the fruits, the benefits, the full benefits, you might say the fulfillment of practicing the Buddhist teachings, living proof that they are true, that they can help us even in this day and age. And if you want, you can even go and live as a monk or a nun in the jungles of Thailand or even Penang, where I'm staying. We're staying up in the jungle at Vihara Bun Raksa. We're in the jungle of Penang. You can go and live there as a Buddhist monk or nun, shave your head if you want, if you're ready, if you see the benefit. You can do that in this day and age. Of course, I was living in London, UK, so I didn't know much about the jungles of Penang or Thailand, but I saw Luangpor Cha on TV through the benefits, the wonders of technology, which inspired me, and later I traveled to Thailand to meet him and offer myself as a student of him to this day. So I can't say much against technology on that level because it's been very useful to me. And today, as I just mentioned, we benefit from technology, don't we? We communicate the Dhamma, the teachings of Buddhism, and all kinds of knowledge, information, and useful things. But it also has another side. Technology can be used for great harm, can't it? So we can make weapons and hurt each other, kill each other. We can scam each other, cheat each other out of money, steal stuff via technology. We can insult each other and hurt each other's feelings. We can divorce our partner with one text. We can quit teaching at the university with one text or email. We can quit being a student. Maybe they quit us. I know students who've been sent away from a university by email. So, emails can be good and bad and all colors, just like our speech, just like our actions. What is technology in the end? It's an extension of our mind, good and bad. So we can use technology to save lives, help people, all kinds of good things, or we can use it in a very destructive way, which just points out the technology itself is neutral, isn't it? It's a collection of physical elements. If it is digital technology, microchips, and all the things, haven't studied it. I don't know all the technology behind it, but we all know of microchips and all of that. That's just physical elements, isn't it? It's just silicon, it's just earth, air, fire, and water come together, whether it's a phone, a tablet, a car, or a gun, or a bomb, or whatever. It's a collection of physical elements being used by human beings for their interests. Whether their interests are good or bad, that's a different question. But technology is just technology. So it's a kind of neutral thing. The important thing is the mind behind it, which is why I got you to do some meditation earlier. And the first thing you'll notice when you pay attention, bring your attention inwards to your own mind, is that there's a lot going on there. And maybe we're missing quite a lot half the time. We're not fully aware of our thoughts, whether they're particularly skillful, conducive to our happiness, peaceful, or maybe very negative, very stressed, very unhappy thoughts. Unless you watch and look at your own mind, you won't know that, will you? We miss it. And even though digital or any other technology can have a bearing on our state of mind and can help us facilitate learning how to understand our mind better, in the end, we also have to develop certain inner qualities which are separate from technology. And that means develop the mind itself to know itself. So the Buddha he gave a very famous teaching, Atahi Atano Nato. It means learn how to rely on yourself, be a refuge to yourself. We have to get to know ourselves better. And that simple truth hasn't changed, whether it's this day and age or 2,500 years ago. And that's why the practice of mindfulness, wise reflection, learning to reflect on our experience as human beings is so valuable, because we need to know ourselves in order to be free from suffering and lead a more fulfilling life. I would say it's impossible to lead a fulfilling life simply surrounding yourself with a lot of technology but not knowing your own mind. It may distract you for a while, and we all know the technology can be very distracting, very addictive, very confusing, complex, distracting. And so you could spend your whole life chasing, as it were, following technology, being absorbed into technology all the time. And it can bring us comfort, can take us out of ourselves so we forget some of our problems, maybe almost like a form of intoxication, isn't it? Like drugs. If you have some stress, you might go to your phone, go to your computer just to get away from that stress. We can do that. We can watch movies, listen to music, and so on. The technology can do that. But really, deep down, if we're to free ourselves from stress and suffering, we have to know our own mind. Because, the Buddha's proposition, or the Buddha's suggestion, is that the real root cause of our stress and suffering in life is not out there. It's not other people, it's not the technology, it's not the world, it's our own mind. And even though the world and other people and technology are involved, the real root cause of our happiness and suffering is internal, which is why it's so valuable to invest time in getting to know your own mind. And to do that, you have to develop the qualities that will help you know your own mind. Therefore, you get this central teaching to Buddhism of mindfulness, developing, you might say, self-awareness, the ability to know your mind, know yourself, because once you know in yourself, then you can use your intelligence to understand things and reflect on things and see what's going on. If you ever practice meditation like we did just now, there's these two main qualities. You're developing mindfulness. Usually we have a technique, so it may be mindfulness directed to the breath, the breathing, using the breath as an object to focus your awareness on, and to develop what we might call continuous mindfulness from moment to moment by directing our mind to pay attention to the breath. That obviously takes some effort, some practice, because your mind won't be compliant. Not like all of you are very nicely sitting listening to my talk. You tell your mind, stay with the breath, and it will do it for precisely 5 seconds. And then you start thinking about something again, or looking, or moving, or something. There'll be a distraction will come in. So to get to really know the breath and train in mindfulness of breathing, you have to practice. That's probably where most people's weakness is, or the main initial obstacle is. If we don't give it time, we're not ready to do that. But if you feel ready, that's what you have to do. Put some time into training in mindfulness, using the breath. And you could do it as a daily exercise, even just 10 minutes a day is valuable. Develop some continuity of mindful awareness, get to know yourself better. And that's the first thing you need to do. You have to get to know yourself before you can change or improve or experience a more fulfilling life. You have to get to know yourself. How could you possibly have a more fulfilling life if you don't even know what you're thinking, and what you're feeling, and what you're about to say or do? You need mindfulness for that. But not mindfulness alone. You might say that's the first benefit of training in meditation, mindfulness of breathing. The second one is you need to be able to reflect on things. So mindfulness supports wisdom and understanding. But again, it's something you have to develop through practice. But as you become more mindfully aware of your own mind, you'll start to notice things. You naturally become more observant. So you'll notice, say you're feeling happy, you might notice, well, what kind of happiness is that? And there's many levels and kinds of happiness, aren't there? You may be simply happy because you got what you want in a situation. Somebody said something nice to you and that's what you want, you like it. You eat some nice food, makes you feel good. You pass your exam, you're happy. You get what you want, so then you're happy. But you might call that a more superficial kind of happiness, the happiness of getting what you want, based on our sense contact with the world. Our senses are being fulfilled, but it's a very temporary kind of happiness. But if you keep developing mindfulness and reflecting inwards on yourself, you might also notice that there's also a more deeper, fulfilling kind of happiness that we can experience as human beings, which is not dependent on just getting what you want. It's more about developing certain qualities that bring a very deep, profound feeling of happiness. So number one would be mindfulness. And number two might be wisdom, what we call wisdom, understanding the way things are. Because you notice, if you have not understood something, well, often it will be a cause for stress, agitation, and then when the understanding arises, what you might hear in the Buddhist world, insight. When insight arises, your mind goes peaceful. You get a very fulfilling, peaceful feeling. So you understand something. That might be, for example, you get ill. You have pain, you have discomfort, or you have symptoms. You go to a doctor, they say, "Oh, you've got this, you've got that." Maybe your first reaction will be panic or worry, mental agitation. Many illnesses don't begin with much pain at all. It's just they find something in a scan, and you don't even know that you've got it until the scan comes. But your worry comes straight away. Oh, what have I got? What's going to happen? But then maybe you reflect, this is normal. Human beings do get ill. Especially as we get older, the body changes, weakens. Illness is quite normal, it's quite ordinary. Suddenly you accept, yeah, okay, it's just one thing in life. This body is impermanent, it's not self, it's not something I can necessarily always control and make the way I want. Maybe I just have to accept I'm ill and I'll take the treatment, go through the treatment, do whatever I need to do, the best I can, go to the doctor, consult them, get the treatment, fine. But mentally, you accept the impermanence of your body in that situation. This is what we call an example of what we call insight. Oh, this is how it is. You get ill, it feels like this. It's not good, of course. It's not what you want, but it's just part of life. And your mind accepts it, then it goes peaceful, doesn't it? A lot of that agitation just disappears. You say, oh, it's one of those things. Hopefully there's a treatment for it, you get better, maybe you'll be completely free from that illness sooner or later. A wonderful thing. But more important is the acceptance of the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness and lack of self in your body, or the normality of sometimes getting ill or even injured. That would be an amazing understanding that would come when you bring up some mindfulness and reflect on your situation in that example. My teacher, Ajahn Chah, he would have very amusing ways of dealing with things like this. If somebody came to him, one of the monks saying got ill, and said, oh, Luangpor, I'm ill. He might answer, I was waiting for that. Because he's totally in line with reality is that human beings get ill from time to time. You might even call just sitting in your seat, feeling a bit of pain, that's a form of illness, isn't it? So you move your body to relieve yourself of that ache or pain. That's actually a form of illness, the illness of the body, because the body doesn't stay perfectly comfortable all day long, doesn't it? You walk a long time, you get tired, you sit a long time, you get some pain. Even lying in bed, you can't do that forever, you get pain. This body is bound up with some pain, gets ill from time to time, we get older every day. It's not perfect, it's imperfect, it's dukkha. Ajahn Chah saw that all the time because he's a very wise, well-practiced person. Developed his mindfulness, investigated his own experience as a human being. So he's always knowing, oh yeah, we get ill. So a monk goes, Luangpor, I've got some illness. And say, oh, I was waiting for that. Probably what you would want, you'd want the other kind of happiness in that situation. You say, I want sympathy. Give me sympathy. So, oh, sorry, you're ill. Let's look after you. Most monks, when they're in the forest on their own and they get ill, the first person they think of is not Luangpor Cha. They think of their mother. Oh, if Mum was here, she'd be giving me the food I want, comforting me. That's that other kind of happiness, the kind of temporary get what you want happiness. That's the happiness of digital technology. It's like that, unfortunately. It's like press the button, get what you want. It's that kind of happiness. It doesn't last that long. It's only, it's not wrong, but it's just very limited. A better kind of happiness would be the happiness of knowing, oh, I'm ill. That's the way it is. So Ajahn Chah would say things like that. He said, oh, it's just like that. You have a human body, it gets old, sometimes it gets sick. You sit for a long time, you get pain. You don't eat food, you feel hungry. These are the normal kinds of suffering of a human body. It's just like that. This is a much deeper insight, and it reflects a much deeper happiness that comes when you see the way things are. So whether it's a phone, a computer, a chariot, an ox cart, or your own body, or anything else you can think of in this world, this is the nature of the world we live in. It's temporary, impermanent, subject to change. It's imperfect, unsatisfactory, and it's not self. It's not yours to control and try and make and be in the way you want all the time. Sometimes you just have to let go, don't you, and accept. It's just the way it is. Nothing I can do. Whether you live in Penang or Thailand or Australia or England, or wherever in this world, you can't control everything. You can't make everything yours, be just how you want. If you can see that, you'll be a happier human being. If the more you see it, you'll be happier. How do you see it? Well, you have to develop the mindfulness and investigate these truths just day by day as you go through your life. And it doesn't mean to say you give up on life. Some people will say, oh, if everything's impermanent, what's the point? No point working, earning money, having a family, going anywhere, studying. What's the point of doing my exams if it's all impermanent? It's not, it's not that at all. It's simply knowing that, okay, if you do an exam, if you pass, so that's probably a sign you've prepared yourself well. You were lucky, it was the questions were on your side. Some years it's questions you've never seen before and you fail or do badly. Sometimes the questions are more in your area so you can do it. If you pass or get a good score, there'll be causes and conditions that led up to that. If you get a bad score, there's causes behind that. Even exams are not self. If you're not seeing that, it's, oh, did I pass, did I fail? That's when the sense of self takes over, and that's why we suffer. But if you're mindful and reflective, it may be, I didn't really do enough work, so perhaps I won't get a good mark. Or spot on, this is my subject, I'm really good at this, I can do this, get a good mark. There'll be causes and conditions, but really it's not self, is it? If you can be mindful and reflective on it, even exams don't have to cause you suffering. You just know what is what, and you can accept it. In the old days, pre-digital, now you do an exam, you get your results on email. Very quick. In the old days, pre-digital, it would all be sent by mail, what we call snail mail. Maybe snails, they have their place in the world. Snail mail, so they have a letter or a brown envelope would come. So in the old days, when the kids in Melbourne did their high school certificate to get into university, they finished the exam, the results come in the brown envelope. Before they opened the brown envelope, they would bring it to me. Luangpor, can you bless this? I say, hold on. I'm not a magician. You've already done the exam. The result is here. I can't change it. They go, please, please. And the more they go, please, the more you think, this one's worried. They didn't do enough work. You open for them and take a bit of the tension out of the situation. But the exam result is the same. You can't change it. But whatever it is, whether it's exams, your health, your relationships, money, family, the world, politics, whatever, everything is subject to impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, not self. It's almost like a game. The Buddha has set you this task that, see if I'm wrong. But you have to do that for yourself. That was Luangpor Cha's message. He didn't say, oh, I'm going to kind of spoon feed you the Dhamma and give you all the answers and you just sit there like in uni and do that. He said, go off and practice. And he'd give encouragement and he would give information and help, of course. But he would also say, you have to do it for yourself. I can't do it for you. So Buddhism is a very mature teaching, a very mature way of learning. You have to learn from your own experience because you are the only one who knows it, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. The Buddha, even if the Buddha was here and could read everybody's mind, the Buddha doesn't have time to sit down checking on all of you, what are you thinking, what are you doing? It'd be far too time consuming. You have to do it for yourself. So the Buddha said, I'm like the swimming instructor. I give you the technique, but you have to go off and practice swimming. I can't make you swim. I can't make you train your mind. You have to practice that. That's the whole essence of Buddhism. And as far as, fulfillment goes, if you want to be fulfilled and have a fulfilled life, you have to do it for yourself. You have to go back and say, well, what's unfulfilling? Maybe getting caught into a lot of desires and expectations about life that are not yet matching reality. That's often where we trip ourselves up. You want this, you want something so much that you kind of assume it's going to happen. You can brainwash yourself. Yeah, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I'll probably get it. Maybe I'll get it. Maybe you even defeat yourself before you even got the thing you want. Oh, it's too hard. I'm not going to get it. Nothing's happened yet. It's all in the mind. Your attitude, what you think about it. I'm going to get it, or I'm not going to get it. I'll succeed, I won't. Before you've even done anything or said anything, you've already thought it through, and either you've achieved it or you haven't in your mind first. It begins in your mind as a thought. So get to know your own mind better, and you'll see that's where the source of all our happiness and suffering begins and ends. Where is Nibbana? It's in the well-trained mind. It's not out there, some place you have to go to. It's not like you have to build a rocket and go to the moon to get to Nibbana. It's not like that. Nothing wrong with building rockets. Good use of technology and nothing against that, but it won't get you to Nibbana. You have to go inwards. And this is where most people don't fully understand or appreciate, not just Buddhism, but just generally, life in general. We miss our own mind so much. The Buddha called it delusion. We're not noticing how we're thinking, how we're feeling, so it catches us out. How many people come and say, oh, when I get angry, it just comes out of nowhere. It just comes up so strong out of nowhere. It's not out of nowhere. There's some causes and things that have led up to that. It's just you missed it. Same with anything, you see something and your desire comes up. I want that. I like that. Give me one. It doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes out of your own mind, what we call the conditioning process. And there may be a whole steps that have led up to that. What you like, what you don't like, what you want, don't want, what you think is really good, what you think is really bad. There are steps and causes and conditions that have led up to that. So you have to know your own mind. Which is why the Buddha said, practice mindfulness, reflect on your experience. The more you do that, you get to know yourself, the more you can free yourself from the stresses of life. So I think my time is up. Maybe I'll just leave you with those reflections tonight. If they've been any use to you, good. If not, never mind. You can leave them right here. It's another form of letting go, isn't it? Let go of the Dhamma talk. But I think we may have time, if you're interested, for some Q&A. I'm still here, so if anyone has questions, maybe we can try and address those.
Before we ask for Q&A, let us give a big thank you to Luangpor for such an insightful topic for tonight. And we see someone with a question. You may run to them. Proceed to the mic. All of them good with me.
With this digital age, probably because I was very close to 60s, born in the 60s. The analog time and the digital time is such a vast difference. And on a day-to-day basis, we find that we spend 8 hours just on the computer. And our mind is actually working so fast because things need to be generated in even a shorter span. So, what would you advise, for us to calm ourselves? Because 8 hours of intense thinking, searching through the internet, getting the information out to the bosses and all that. It is so challenging. And by the time you come back, you're so tired and all that. How then would we really become more mindful and calm our mind? Sorry.
I think a very relevant question. There's a few different ways I would deal with this problem. One may be what you might say is on the preventative side. Don't spend all your time on the computer with your work. Don't spend all your time thinking about your job. You may have to spend many hours doing that. You may have very many responsibilities and you can't escape, okay? But make sure you pick some quality time for other important parts of your life. Be a fulfilled, rounded person. So you have family, you have your own personal spiritual development, you may have hobbies or other things that bring you enjoyment. They're also important. And they're not necessarily taking you away from your job, but if you get plenty of rest and you have these other more fulfilling activities, when you come back to your job, maybe you can keep a better state of mind, better clarity, a better sense of ease within yourself as you approach this demanding job, many hours on a computer, say. So that may be one thing. Don't neglect other aspects of your life. One day you will leave that job. Either you move to another job, or you retire, or conditions change. You won't be with that job forever. So don't give everything. Don't sell your soul to the company. Give them something, of course. You have to give them your knowledge, your skills, because they're paying you. But don't give everything, because it's not everything. And one day you'll move on. Someone else will be doing that job, and they won't be thinking of you anymore. So don't give everything to the job. So another part of that may also be if you develop some kind of regular meditation practice. That may be a good thing to do. Again, it's preventative, gets you much more in touch with yourself. It's time to let things come up. And that can be walking meditation as much as sitting meditation. So going for walks, maybe in a formal way, formal walking meditation, we go walking back and forth, which you can do even in a little room or in your house or around your house. But you can also go for walks around the park, the garden, some place. But just walking, not using your phone, not doing other things, just walking mindfully and allowing things to come up, allowing your mind to reflect on things, let go of things, understand things better as you walk, or also at least 10 minutes of sitting meditation in the morning, relaxing, bringing the mindfulness to the breath, practicing letting go, because that's a skill that you can bring up at any other time as well. If you're practicing regularly, you'll be familiar with it. So say you're in the middle of an 8-hour stint in front of the computer. Well, okay, after an hour or two, you're going to need to stretch, move around. So physically, you've also got to look after your body, rest your eyes, come away from the screen for a while, do a few other things. And you may also take a few minutes sometimes just to breathe in, breathe out mindfully, or close your eyes. You're sitting there, you just close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out. Re-establish awareness in the present moment before you carry on. So this is more bringing mindfulness and good practice into your heavy work day. So one is looking after your physical health, so get enough time to stretch, exercise, change posture, and you can do that as a mindfulness thing. In your day, your lunch break, you can do some yoga or Tai Chi or these things, or go for a walk or do some meditation. It's up to you to see the value, the importance of these other activities to support your mental and physical health, and which will support your work. So if your boss says, "Why are you meditating in your lunch break?" You say, "Because when I come back from lunch break, I'm going to be able to work more mindfully, better, I'll be more concentrated, my mind will be in a better state." What boss could complain about that? But you have to see where you can introduce more of this kind of thing. Even if it's only 1 minute of relaxed, mindful breathing in the midst of a busy morning, a busy afternoon. And then you also need to introduce some wise reflection, what we call yoniso manasikara, it's wise reflection. So say as you say, at the end of your day, you're always tired. By the time you get home, you're very tired, mentally tired, physically tired. Okay, if that's happening regularly, and it will, number one is be aware of the problem or the situation. And you may not be able to avoid it. Everyone gets tired with their work all day long. So the problem, this situation, develop some skillful strategies for dealing with that part of the day when you know you'll be tired. That's not the time to discuss important emotional business with your husband or your children or somebody. That's not the time to talk about the delicate, sensitive issue, is it? Because you're going to be tired, you're not going to give it full attention. Leave those things for times when you've got more time, more relaxed. When you're tired, be careful. We get irritated, we make mistakes when we're tired. So be aware of that, and then adjust your thinking, your activities as you become more tired in the day. Adjust your activities to suit that fact, to be in line with that fact, to help yourself. If you're getting too tired too many days, you might get run down and get ill. So watch that, and don't give in to the desire just to keep work until you're burnt out. Catch yourself before you're burnt out, before you get ill, before things go wrong. Catch yourself and see the value of sometimes stepping back, resting a bit more, changing your activities. And if it makes you stronger and more happy, have a better sense of well-being in yourself, then you'll be able to work better as well. So it's not a clash between other things and work. It's just a more fulfilled, enhanced life, introducing other things as you work. So partly it's about attitude, partly it's about having a few strategies and things that you can do to help yourself, especially when you do get tired. If you do meditate regularly, that's one thing that will really help you. And it doesn't have to be long periods of meditation. It can be 10, 15 minutes of meditation. It can be a really useful thing to introduce into your daily routine.
Is there any question?
With the advance of the digital world and internet, nowadays we are bombarded with all sorts of sad news, like war in Ukraine, suicides of singers, popular singers, actors, actors. So how should we react to it, especially the youngsters?
Right.
Thank you very much.
As we say, it's IT, information technology is huge in our lives now. But we have to learn, because it's huge, you're now exposed to the whole world, information from the whole world, whereas before you might just know what's going on in your immediate neighborhood, workplace, it's a much smaller area. Now you know about wars in strange parts of the world you've never been to and don't know anything about, but you know there's a war there and people are dying, or there's an earthquake or illness, or like you say, people who are in the news commit suicide or have their own suffering, and then you're hearing about it. So that's the challenge, isn't it? You're receiving what we call mental objects, sights, sound, taste, smell, touch, from the whole world. That's a lot to ask from one little human being, me, you. We've got to learn how to manage that. So you have to learn how to manage your phone and the amount of information you're receiving, the amount of information you can process. So one thing, if you can introduce for kids when they're really young, is how to put a phone down, how to turn the tablet off. But not simply because mum and dad say so, but get them to see the value of also not being a total slave to the technology. Use technology for your advantage, but don't become enslaved to it. So, like people do, they go on camps where they leave the phone or the tablets behind. There's no power, so they can't charge them. Go for a walk, teach kids to go for walks in the forest. Obviously, if you can, get them to practice meditation where they put the technology down. So they're familiar with at least shorter or longer periods where they are setting aside the technology. If you can encourage that and introduce that more and more, they've got a taste of it. It's giving them a chance to know, technology isn't everything. and just encourage them to reflect on their own behaviors. How many hours a day are you using your phone, your technology? How is the stuff that you're looking at affecting you emotionally? How does it come up in your mind? So meditation and any meditative technique will help there, introducing them to that. Also just giving conversation guidance when they're young, with the idea that when they get older, then they can have that responsibility that this technology is useful, but it can also, it's a double-edged sword. It can also be very harmful. So how can I remain in charge of the technology rather than the technology taking charge of me? So it's a question you introduce and try and help them think it through. And we have to be examples ourselves when we're thinking for ourselves, and then also encouraging them to. And it's quite, get them to see it's quite all right not to know what's going on in the world. Because, they'll feel, I'm getting left behind, or, get them to the point where they can go to school on Monday and their friends say, what did you do over the weekend? Nothing. That's fine, that's good. Because if we're honest, I think parents are often half of the problem, isn't it? You're going to give all the kids the activities to keep up with the other parents, the other families. They're going to do this, do that, do that. So they're pushing and pushing. So try and do it in a balanced way. I'm not saying don't do activities and don't know about the world. Of course, you've got to know about the world, but in a balanced way. We also got to know how to turn off. Because the best mind is a mind that is free from obsessions, addictions, attachments. That's the best mind, the most fulfilling mind, where it's, you might say, self-fulfilled, where you have inner sense of well-being and, you can pick your phone up or put it down. That would be your ideal. That's what you're aiming for. You have that ability to use technology, but if it's not necessary, I can also turn it on, put it down. Introduce that kind of goal if they can see that. And that, half the stuff we read is totally frivolous, unimportant to ourselves, our well-being, not necessary. And unfortunately, some of the stuff we read and see is totally harmful. If you keep reading or seeing pictures of wars and people suffering, or a lot of sensual stuff, because we get a lot of sensuality through our senses, through the technology, just get them to reflect. There's a harmful side to that. How much is the right amount for us to absorb in these things? What's it doing to us? What's the results? Any way you can get kids or older people to reflect on cause and effect. You might call this karma. If you keep watching negative news, and most news is fairly negative, you might well feel depressed, sad, feel like it's hopeless. This world is far too, it's a difficult place to live in. There's nothing I can do about it. You just feel overwhelmed by it, and many people do. So get people to see the danger in that and learn how sometimes to turn off, get things in perspective. Even though it's sad, if there's things going on in the other parts of the world, people suffering, of course it's sad, but at the same time, maybe there's nothing you can do, so there's no need to know too much about it. You just read the headline and then move on. You don't need to read all the gory details or see all the videos of whatever, but just accept. So any way you can introduce Dhamma so that they've got some understanding and wisdom. So, if their favorite movie star or singer commits suicide, talk about it with compassion. That's sad. They committed suicide. Why did this happen? Get them to start reflecting rather than just, it's terrible, the world is coming to an end, rather than just getting caught up in the emotional reaction all the time. Introduce the ability to just stop, think about things more deeply, try and understand. And just see technology as something we have to use, but we don't have to be a slave to it. That's the goal.
Maybe we have the last question. Okay, if there's no question, We would like to invite the Sister Renee, President of USM Buddhist Society, together with the Deputy President of USM Buddhist Society to offer requisite to Luangpor Kalyano.
In a moment, I'll give a blessing to you all, because that's what the Buddhist monks do. Even in the digital age, we still give the same blessing that the Buddha gave 2,500 years ago. We wish you a long life, good health, well-being in body and mind, and the freedom from suffering. So you've all made merit today. We say making merit, you've developed some happiness for yourselves, hopefully, by listening to the Dhamma, practicing some meditation, making offerings, giving up your time for this occasion. We call this merit making. But the last part of the merit making is making merit by sharing merit. So the goodness that you've developed today, you can now, while I chant the blessing, you share that with your families, departed loved ones, families, the living and the ones who passed away. Just share the merits of your practice today with them. And it's a very good practice to get into the habit of doing that, on a daily basis, maybe once a day. Just share the merits of your work. If you work 8 hours a day, that's a very good thing, and I'm sure many people benefit from that. Maybe you're helping your family, the people involved in your work. So if you worked 8 hours a day, that's also making merit. It's not just making merit with monks. There's many ways we make merit. If you've been studying in the university 8 hours a day, hopefully, that's merit. Driving your car on the road carefully, following the laws of Malaysia, that's making merit. There's so many ways that we may not realize we're making merit. So whatever merit you've made today, you can share that with your families, departed loved ones, everyone, for everyone's well-being. And just think of that as I do the chant of the blessing. Yatthavarivaha pura paripurenti sakarang Eva hito tinang petanang upakapati ichitam batitam tumhang kipameva samichato sabe purantu sankapa janto panaraso yata manisho tiraso yata sapitio vivachanto Sabarogo vinasato mate pavatwantarayo sukiti kayuko pawa abhivadana silisanicham muta pachayino chataro dhamma vatanti ayu ano sukham balang bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata Sabba Buddhanubhavena, Sabba Dhammanubhavena, Sabba Sankhanubhavena, Santa Soti Bhavantu Te. So very happy to meet you all. I'll just be in Penang a couple more days. Tomorrow going to Nalanda Center. And then the next day be at Bodhi Heart Center, right? Yeah. And then go back to Thailand. So wish you all well and maybe meet you again sometime.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, UBOP and USM Buddhist Society would like to express our utmost gratitude towards Luangpor Kalyano for accepting our invitation to teach Dhamma here tonight. And brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, we would like to, this Dhamma talk would not have been possible without all the cooperation and all the hard work put in by your board, led by Brother Richard, and the USI Buddhist Society. And there are a few people who I would like to thank here. We would like to express our appreciation towards Brother Richard, the main coordinator, Brother KK for the live stream here, and this is what we call technology put into wise use. Our reception, our usherers, Brother Chiam, our photographer, Brother Sintian for the sound system and the video, Sister Malini and team, for helping the traffic and also the parking here tonight. All our helpers in USM for arranging such a comfortable hall and to make this face-to-face interaction possible after such, I think after 3 years. And we would like to thank each and every one of you who actually contributed to this talk. And last, all of you participants who are here and who are present here tonight. And also those our participants who are live streamed tonight. With that, a big sadhu to all of you. May your progress in your practice and drive safe later. Sadhu. Okay, we can have a group photo.
Photo, okay. More skillful use of technology.